Hi everyone, welcome back to World Class Inventors. This is video number 49 in the series. It's still June 6th. I'm pumping these little babies out. They're extemporaneous. They're nothing more than a stream of consciousness from my head, from me to you. And I want to kind of give you an update, and I want to try to explain something to you that you should know, especially when you're doing a prototype. Now, how in God's name did I go from idea to provisional patent to non-provisional patent to notice of allowance and to a patent grant? Well, after dealing with this from September 25th, 2019, it's now June 6th, 2024, and I'm just now, after all that time, working on the finalization of my prototype for my tangle-free or tangle-proof American flag. Now, I've already done videos on this, and it's in my book, the World Class Inventors Handbook. And I've also taken you on that journey on what I did in the world of oil filters. And just to circle back the wagons, I have the most citations of anybody in the history of the USPTO in the field of oil filtration, in the history, and probably in the world. And I had 156 citations. I've had 29 patents filed behind my back with the company that I was in business with, which was Honeywell International. And I fought them in federal district court. I quit my job. I mortgaged my house. I taught myself to become a lawyer. And I sued them on the federal district court level in Newark, New Jersey. And it took me 4+ almost 5 years to dispose of that matter. So I kind of understand how this process works. The good, the bad, the ugly, all the minefields, all the toe poppers. And now I'm going to pull back the curtain on this process, because at 66 years old and having been around the block a little bit as far as intellectual property is concerned, I want to pull back the curtain. I want to lift up the fold of the circus tent, and I want to share it with you. If for no other reason, I want to do a deep dive on this subject and hopefully be a benefit and a blessing to somebody. All right. So 4 years have elapsed, and I haven't finalized the prototype for my tangle-free flag. And you're saying, my God, Steve, you've just violated everything you've talked about. You didn't have a final prototype before you filed the patent. Well, you can't always do that. I shared that with you, but I'm going to go into detail now. I have a notice of allowance. The notice of allowance says that I am in the publication queue and I'm going to get an official grant. I can withdraw the patent myself if I want and walk away from it, abandon it, or I can withdraw the patent and I can file a continuation in part, if I so choose, to jazz up my specification. But you wouldn't do that. The only thing you would want to do is to amend your claims. That means I had a brainstorm, I had an epiphany, so I want to add new claims. That means I'm going to jeopardize the 23 claims that I've already gotten for the one claim or the two claims that I forgot or had the inability to see the forest through the trees, and I excluded those two claims that are driving me absolutely batty. that I didn't put them in with the 23 claims and I should have had 24 or 25. But you never want to risk your claims with the examiner or the examination process. Once the examiner gives you something, you have to take it and run. Any of the top attorneys that are charging $1,000 an hour plus, and they're on YouTube, and they're world-class intellectual property attorneys, they will talk ad nauseum that once an examiner gives you something, you have to do a George Washington close. Should you not, whatever. But they always invariably tell you, take what's been offered and run, because the patent claims is a give and take. It's a compromise between you and the examiner. So when you've already been given 18 dependent claims and 3 independent claims, would I want to withdraw my patent now and refile a continuation in part and go through the process again and risk my granted claims to be revisited? The answer is absolutely friggin' impossible. You wouldn't do it. So the point of this little tirade here is, I'm not going to be talking to the vendors, the big companies, the powerful companies in the world, whether located in America or not, on how to make the very crucial prototype I need to make my invention work until I know that the patent grant is coming. Meaning, I have the notice of allowance. The only person that can take the notice of allowance away from me is myself, which I just explained to you that I wouldn't do. Not on the biggest dare would I do it. And the other party that can withdraw my patent is the United States Patent Office. And basically, they'll never do that unless they think I committed some sort of crime or egregious fraud or something really way out in left field legally. They're not going to do that. I paid the fee. I got the notice of allowance. I'm in the pipeline. I have the patent grant, which is coming. And that is the only time that I would ever tell you to really get thick into the weeds to figure out building your finalized prototype, because when you finally start talking to jobbers, manufacturers, purveyors of your patent, of your secret sauce, of the secret element within the patent that makes the patent work from a visual, from a mechanical, from a scientific standpoint, you have to have coverage. You have to be able to tell your story, explain it, to get to the heart of the matter where the person on the other end of the telephone is listening to you. You have their attention. They're taking you serious. And you can do that with a modicum of confidence, a very high level of confidence, because the grant is coming. I mean, we all know that Christmas is coming in 2024. We all know that. We all know that Thanksgiving is coming in 2024. We all know, well, I'm not going to say this, but we all know there could be an election in 2024 as well. But the point is, you don't talk to somebody who's bigger and more powerful than you from an economic and a legal standpoint until at least you're holding the ace, which is the notice of allowance, which means the patent grant is coming at some point. You need to really explain to the person on the other end of the phone when they're going to draw you up a business proposal on making the widget, making the secret sauce, making the part for you. They have to believe you're credible. If you cannot come across to them on the telephone that you're credible, they're going to think you're manic. They're going to think you're somebody who wrote this down on the back of a paper napkin and somebody who's off their lithium. So you need to really have the knowingness that you are an inventor, that you've thought this through, that you know how to make it, that the patent grant is coming, that what you've done and what you have is special and it's valuable. And you cannot do that until you know that the grant is almost in your hand. And that's why you don't go and build your final prototype in the beginning, because you have to spill the beans. You have to do it in a stealthy manner. You have to almost be duplicitous and kind of work your way through it and figure it out. But you can't spill the sauce because you don't have the patent. You don't have the claims, okay? So now that I'm getting the grant, now that all the hard work is done, I had the idea, I followed it through, and I climbed the Everest of intellectual property protection, which in my case is the patent. And once it gets into commerce, of course, I will trademark it once it gets sold over state lines, and I'm a going concern. Then after you get the patent, you fine-tune your prototype. That's the next mountain the inventor climbs. Once that's done, and you have the final prototype that you know is going to be the platform for either the angel investors that you're going to want to back you so that you can make it yourself and market it yourself, or if you're going to a bigger entity than yourself, an established business that you want to enter into a license agreement with. The bottom line is you have to have a finalized prototype. Handing somebody the patent alone and explaining it to them is not good enough. They got to be able to touch it, to see it, to smell it, to taste it, to rub it along their face. They're going to want to see this thing intimately. And if you can't get the final widget that you need into your final prototype, you have a snowball's chance in hell of ever selling or licensing your finalized invention. So these are all things that you need to be aware of. So in the beginning, it's a rough prototype as best as you can do. And when you get to this stage, the notice of allowance where you can speak freely about it, this is scary because now I got to finalize it. I got to make sure this thing comes out exactly the way I envisioned it. And I couldn't have done it before because then I would have been risked of being stolen from. And you would never get intimate with somebody on a prototype basis with a provisional patent because there's no claims, there's no teeth. And that's the mountain I'm climbing now. So I'm going to get this finalized widget for my tangle-free flag, and then I'm going to install it into my flag body itself. I'm going to fly it and test it and look at it and refine it then again, and then I'll be ready for the angel investors or the licensing. And that's really the biggest and the final mountain that one has to climb. That's Mount Marketing. And I have a lot of things I can share about that with you because I already did it in the world of oil filtration. Okay, I did 4 videos in one day. Maybe I am off of my lithium. I'll see you in the next video. As always, God bless you. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you around. Bye-bye.